Hello everyone, welcome back to Business School 101. Today we're talking about former Vice President Kamala Harris's new memoir 107 Days. The book recounts the 107 days from President Biden's announcement to withdraw from the race to Harris's emergence as the Democratic nominee. In the book, Harris not only reviews that process but also openly criticizes decisions made by Biden's team. She even uses words as strong as reckless. That raises an immediate puzzle. Why would she put intra-party conflicts on full display? These are her colleagues. Doesn't she risk offending people and hurting her own political prospects? Today I want to use game theory to unpack this move. Don't worry when you hear game theory, I'll explain it in plain language. After this short analysis, you may find that publishing 107 days wasn't a mere outburst, but a carefully calculated strategic play. Section 1. The strategy of tying your hands. In game theory, there's a classic idea called tying your hands. To see how it works, consider an old war story. An army crosses a river to attack, and once across, the general orders the bridge burned. The soldiers immediately realize there's no retreat, they must fight with everything they've got. But equally important, the enemy can see the burned bridge. The enemy reasons, this army has no way back, they will fight to the death. Facing that kind of determination, the enemy might choose to surrender or negotiate rather than fight to mutual destruction. By removing his own option to retreat, the general made his threat credible. Publishing 107 days is like burning the bridge. By putting internal disputes into print for the whole country to see, Harris leaves herself no easy way to backtrack, and she forces the Democratic Party to respond seriously. Section 2. Modeling the game. Let's make this concrete with a very simple game. There are two players, Harris on one side and the Democratic Party on the other, which includes party leadership and Biden's team. The game proceeds in two steps. First, Harris chooses, publish the book and reveal the internal disputes, or stay silent. Second, after observing Harris's choice, the party responds. The party has two options: concede, acknowledge the problems and work with Harris, such as, give Harris more voice and influence, or challenge, ignore or marginalize her criticisms and keep the existing power structure. Different choice combinations produce different political outcomes. To make the incentives clear, we'll assign simple payoff scores. Higher numbers are better for that player, lower numbers worse. Section 3. What happens if Harris stays silent? If Harris stays silent, what are the party's incentives? Suppose the party chooses to concede even though no public pressure exists. Conceding in that case looks weak. Why make concessions when nothing has been made public? The party's payoff in that scenario is low, let's call it 0. Harris would get a small benefit, say, 1, because she gains a little influence without risking a fight. If the party instead chooses to challenge while Harris remains silent, the party preserves authority and control. That earns them a higher payoff, 2. Harris gets sidelined and ends up worse off, with a payoff of -1. So if Harris says nothing, the party will prefer to challenge, and Harris is left marginalized. Section 4. What happens if Harris publishes the book? Now suppose Harris publishes 107 days and the internal split becomes public. The party then faces a tough choice. If the party challenges in public, the split is exposed to the whole nation, open conflict and mutual damage. Both sides suffer. We'll represent that as -2 for Harris and -2 for the party. If the party instead concedes and cooperates after the book is out, the party can adopt a posture of reform and listening to criticism. That is awkward for them, but it avoids a public spectacle of division. In that scenario, Harris gains significant credibility and influence, say a payoff of +2, while the party takes a modest hit but avoids catastrophe, say a payoff of +1. Given these payoffs, cooperation is clearly better for the party than costly public confrontation. Section 5. Backward induction and the equilibrium. Using backward induction, reasoning from the party's choices back to Harris's decision, Harris can anticipate the outcome. If she remains silent, the party will challenge and she ends up at -1. If she publishes, the party prefers to cooperate and she ends up at +2. The rational choice is therefore to publish. Game theorists call this a subgame perfect equilibrium. At every stage each player chooses a best response given the other's actions, and Harris's decision to burn the bridge changes the party's incentives in a way that benefits her. Section 6. What Harris achieves strategically. Viewed through this lens, the book is not merely a personal vent or reckless airing of dirty laundry. By publishing, Harris achieves 3 strategic effects. First, she burns her retreat. Making the dispute public removes the option of pretending nothing happened. Second, she makes her threat credible. the party recognizes she is serious and cannot easily be ignored. Third, she changes the party's incentive structure. Cooperation becomes less costly for the party than a public conflict, so they are pushed toward accommodation. That is the core of the tie your hands strategy. By narrowing your own choices, you alter the opponent's behavior. Section 7. The bigger picture and limits. Of course, real politics is far messier than this toy model. Media framing, voter reactions, competing factions inside the party, long-term reputational effects, and personal motives all play roles that our simplified game does not capture. Political actors' actual motivations may mix strategic calculation with personal grievance, historical context, or other constraints. Still, this model highlights a key logic: an action that looks self-harmful at first glance, publicizing internal disputes, can in fact be a rational strategic move to shift incentives. It's also important to stress that this is an analytic, educational exercise, not a moral or personal judgment of Harris or the party. Section 8. Takeaway. So what's the takeaway? Harris's 107 days may be more than a memoir. It may be a deliberate strategic play designed to make cooperation the party's better option. That's exactly the kind of insight game theory helps us see: how credible threats and constrained choices reshape political outcomes. If you want to dive deeper into these ideas, I've left a link to my game theory course in the comments. If you found this helpful, please like and share. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Business School 101.